Ladies, gentlemen, everybody in attendance and tuning in and listening right now, welcome back to the show. It's your host, Emilio Wegbar, and I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out here today and coming and check us out. And if you haven't done so yet, I would appreciate it if you go check us out on IG. Hit us up on the gram at EJP_entertainment for all news related to EJP Entertainment. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you know, when you hear me in this capacity, we are at the point of our show where we are joined now by our special guest. And here on the line with us, joining us today from out of Long Island, Strong Island, New York, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Tabitha Polaris. So please, if you would, help me welcome her to the show by giving her a round of applause. Tabitha, how's everything? How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Everything's going well. How about you?
Everything's good. I can honestly say I've been having a very, very pleasant and enjoyable day. I'm definitely happy to say that much. But, you know,
me too.
Yeah. But welcome to the show. We do appreciate you, you know, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to stop by here, you know, share your story with us and everything. So with that being said, normally in the first, you know, part of the segment, I would like to give, you know, our guests the opportunity to tell the audience a little bit about themselves. So if you would please, the floor is all yours.
Well, I grew up in New York and I'm still living in New York. I had an amazing childhood, singing everywhere I could, and then got into singing in jazz bands, musical theater, acting. I just sang everywhere I could. And then I eventually was in a lot of rock bands in high school, and then sang some weddings, then went to NYU to School of the Arts and studied drama at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, and just loved everything about art. Loved singing, dancing, acting, all of that. And so after graduation, I became a studio musician, which means I sang a lot of jingles, commercials for the radio and TV, and then sang a lot of backgrounds on a lot of rap albums and other people's albums. So that was a lot of fun. And I realized I had a pretty good range. So I loved working in the studio. And now, when I look back, 9/11 happened, and then I kind of just stayed clear of the city. So then I got into the cover band scene in Long Island, just to, get some distance from the city a little bit. And so then I did lots of, I was part of a talent agency. So we did lots of shows. And then after a while, I was exhausted, just the grind of being a musician. I have to be honest, it was some weeks I'd make so much money and another week I would make nothing. And it was, I had all these amazing experiences, sang with Diana Ross at the United Nations, and I was on the Howard Stern show, and, really fun experiences. But also there came a time where I was tired. So I remember getting into holistic health because my mom was sick. So that's how I got into holistic health. So I got into Reiki and eating clean, and that opened up a whole new world to me. And being a musician, I got into frequency healing. So using different frequencies to heal the body and to relax people that have anxiety. So I eventually learned all of these modalities and started treating people. I became a Reiki master teacher, and I really loved it. I love helping people, and I always felt like through singing or acting, I was always helping people or touching them or lifting them up. And I was just doing it in another way, and I really needed a break. And then after a very long, successful few years, I really missed the music. So then I really missed the music. I didn't feel like myself at all. I mean, from going to performing all the time to nothing was bizarre. So I joined the cover bands again just to brush up my voice, and it was a lot of fun. And then the whole world shut down when the virus happened, and I had all this free time. And I said, you know what, I'm going to write some of my own original songs. That's always been a lifelong dream of mine, and I had the time. And it just was I had the time of my life during that time. And I really feel for everyone that suffered or, that lost people. But I had the best time because I went to Cove City Studios in Glen Cove, which a local musician around here, John Bellion, records that, and Richie Kanata owns the studio. He was Billy Joel's saxophone player.
Nice.
So I just had the time of my life. And what I did first was to brush up my studio chops. I recorded a meditation album called Seven Spheres of Light. And I used my crystal bowls, and, you know, I did some guided meditation, but it was fun because I actually used like sound effects, and the visualization of the guided meditation I brought to life with different sounds, and had a blast making it. And then at that same time, I was writing original music, and I always had this limiting belief that I couldn't complete my own song, which is so silly. So I crushed that belief, and I said, it's now or never, and I know I can do this. So I really wanted to finish my own songs. You know, I've been writing lyrics and writing songs with other people and helping people finish their own songs. And now I was like, it's time for me to blossom and fulfill a lifelong dream of becoming my own recording artist and getting my own songs out there and sharing my voice and my messages. I think what I have to share is uplifting, but also very cool and edgy. So it's kind of like something for everybody in the song. So I finished the meditation album, and then I dove right into recording the original music. And that's where this album, which is a 4-song EP, is called Elemental Codes. And that's how it was born. So that's the story of how this whole thing happened. And I am not stopping. I'm actually continuing to write music. And I think I've never been happier. So.
Wow. I got to say, you are a very interesting person when it comes to everything you just talked about. You got so many things that you're involved with in your life, and that's dope. You know, I like that because when you're, you know, occupied so much with doing things that you love to do or things that you're naturally interested in, it doesn't really feel too much like a task when you really sit and you think about it. But, you know, you mentioned a few very interesting things that I have never heard of until this interview. Sure. And one of the things that you mentioned was holistic healing and holistic health. Yep. So like, what is that to the person that hear this, you know, terminology be used for the first time? Well, how would you describe that?
So in short, I would say it, unfortunately, in the 50s and during the Industrial Revolution, companies tried to cut corners to grow more food, to make more money, and genetically modified our seeds, and also started putting a lot more chemicals and preservatives in our foods. There was not as many allergies or illnesses back then, and now we're seeing the effects of how that has affected our population. So I believe if you eat clean, which means don't eat food with a box with chemicals and ingredients you can't pronounce. Like, try to eat organic food. Try to eat, you know, free range organic meats. If you eat meat, try to at least, you know, look up the Dirty Dozen. Try to at least, you know, if you can't afford all organic food, at least use strawberries, organic, and the things that can absorb more chemicals. And I promise you will feel healthier, and you're in that preventative mode where you're not going to be sick. You're going to prevent being sick. And when I eliminated all of that from my foods and also from my beauty products and my bath and body products, I got into essential oils, I got into Reiki, my whole life changed and I had more energy. I cured an autoimmune disease that I had. And getting into the energy work, which was Reiki. Reiki is just a gentle yet powerful form of energy healing, which is kind of like tuning a radio. I'm using different frequencies around us in the atmosphere and the energy around the world. So I just channel that energy and lay my hands on people and balance their energy. And for a while, when Reiki first came out, there wasn't a lot of science behind it, and it was hard for people to wrap their head around it, even though they would experience the relaxing effects of it. Now there's science backed by it, and it's really exciting. So yeah, Reiki, I use essential oils, and I really eat clean, and I don't use any chemicals in my house. I use all plant-based cleaners. And that has made a huge difference in my life. So if you're sick, overweight, even emotional. This can affect your endocrine system and affect your body if you're a man or a woman. So give it a try, and you don't have to do it all at once, but I highly suggest it. It's an amazing way to live.
That's very interesting. You know, like my wife, she actually, you know, she's starting to transition into doing more of getting away from like what should I say? Getting away from like, you know, all of the like, you know, ingredient type stuff or the stuff like you said, like you can't pronounce or whatever, and has transitioned into using more organic products and stuff like that. Now, I asked this question because I know like we have just came out of the pandemic, and I know over the last almost 3 years, you know, we dealt with a lot of sickness and a lot of, you know, health issues and concerns. Do you feel like nowadays that people are starting to be more mindful of their own health going forward now that we are coming out of this transition period?
Absolutely. I went from being the weirdo in the neighborhood to the person that everybody calls for help. It's hilarious. And also, I've noticed like the Salt Cave in my neighborhood was completely not busy. Post-pandemic, it has never been busier. And I asked the owner the other day, I said, why are you so busy? Did you do something? Do you think it was just time being open? She goes, no, everybody understands the health benefits of the salt air now with their lungs. And I'm like you can't even get an appointment for like 5 days. And it's just unbelievable. So I do see people are more in control of their own health. And a big thing that I saw during the pandemic was a lot of people had time to themselves to go within, reevaluate their life, their lifestyle, their health, and take control and not be so dependent on a doctor or a pill, and really realize that all of these synthetic medicines are actually copycat made from plants that they find on Earth. So they're taking the same compounds in the plants that they discover and synthesizing it in a lab to give us. And so it's like, why not use the plant that will not have any side effects with your body?
Right.
Whereas if you use the fake version that's made in a lab, it could have a similar effect, but that's what your body has side effects. And that's, I really think people are starting to wake up, and hopefully we'll go back more to our roots, because our ancestors knew what to use on the earth. I also think that was the big theme of this album for me. You know, like everyone is so into their phones and their video games and the Netflix, and those are all blessings and great things. But I really think we need to step outside and realize all of the beauty around us, and the healing that can occur just from watching the sunrise or the sunset, or putting your bare feet on the ground. There is definitely scientific studies about, you know, earthing, and where you're putting your feet on the ground and releasing negative energy, pain, emotional suffering, putting it into the earth and releasing it. And that's what that song was about, called Earth Codes, on my album. That's what inspired that song. And also me going to the ocean during the pandemic and the summers before even that, and just feeling so relaxed at the ocean. I'm really blessed and so grateful to live near the ocean, where I could escape and feel like I'm on vacation and just feel the waves just like washing away all the stress. And that's why I wrote Water Codes. So, you know, I wanted people to realize that there's power and energy around us, and that, you know, there's such beauty around us, and we can use that to heal ourselves and release stress, and also revitalize ourselves. So that's, you know,
and that's
cool,
one thing,
cool inspiration.
Absolutely. And that's one thing, you know, I continue even to this day to tell people, I'm like, even though, you know, there was a lot of ugliness we experienced over the last 2 years, a lot of good things did come out of it. And like you said, a lot of people had a chance to reconnect with themselves, being isolated for so long and not being able to be around people. A lot of people have been able to reconnect with themselves, reconnect with their environment, and get more in tune with things like connecting to nature. Like, you know, I've learned about various things like, you know, the earth thing that you just talked about. And then also, you know, another thing was sun gazing, where, you know, people wait until the sun is going down, they stare into the sun for a few minutes, and then it feels charged up. I even tried it once before, and I'm like, oh, like I can't believe like this actually works, you know. And it's very interesting, a lot of the things that you're starting to hear now that people was able to do over that period of time that is starting to be, you know, introduced into the world right now that people are starting to catch on to.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to watch. I really think we needed a wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
And I love looking at the sun. I love looking at the stars, the moon, and those are all the themes I sing about on these songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad to hear that you are aware of it. Like, it's really coming out in the open now. Like, we're remembering our ancient wisdom. We're remembering what our ancestors knew. We used to like farm and live off the land and make our own medicine from herbs. And we were so much more connected to nature. And I'm not trying to sound like a crazy hippie. I'm just saying you need to, like, you can't be so extreme in one or the other. You really like need a mix of both in your life. So like, make sure you have, you know, your normal day-to-day life, and then also like make sure you connect with nature. You know, like, so when I wrote the album, I wrote water first, water codes, and then I wrote air, earth, and fire. And I thought it was cool as a concept to write about the elements of earth. So that's, you know, what inspired me. And it was so much fun writing those songs. And if anyone's listening and has like a dream in the back of their mind that they always wanted to do, like, now is the time. Even if you work on it for 1 hour a day, whether it's writing a book or traveling or whatever your heart desires, I just wanted to say, you know, try to accomplish maybe like a couple minutes a day focusing on your goal and accomplishing your dream, because once it happens, it's crazy. It's like the best feeling. So I feel like we all need to follow our joy. And I think that makes you feel happier and more fulfilled. I think that we, like, I don't know, when I was growing up, it was like you were expected to go to school, go to college, work for 40 years and retire. And that was like the only option. And like now I'm like, hey, travel and, you know, blog it on YouTube, you know, like, I don't know. The world is like your oyster with technology now. That's what's also very cool about being a musician in this time, is that we can record songs and use different distributors and upload them. And we don't have to really go through a record label, which are positives and negatives to both. And you know, I'm just so grateful that we have all these options, you know, so technology is great, but you need a mix of nature in there too.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. Balance is definitely key to any aspect or element of your life. You definitely got to have that balance, because you can't be so overindulged in one aspect and then forget about all the other aspects. That's where you lose that balance. So I definitely agree with you with that one. And with that being said, you know, the EP Elemental Codes that, you know, we were just speaking about, you know, very briefly, like, how would you say like the response has been to people that have actually taken the time to listen to it?
I have been very like positive about releasing my children, which is what they feel like to me, releasing my little babies into the world and just having no expectations, because then I'll never be disappointed. So that's how I started this. Like, I have healthy goals and dreams, and I always go big. I'm like, I go big or go home with everything I do. So I did everything right, did all the research, you know, did everything correctly. And when it was released, I realized, you know, whoever is lifted up, inspired, or, you know, touched by these songs is awesome. So whether it's one person or 1,000 or a million, I'm really good. But what happened was I was just curious how the songs would make people feel, which one would be their favorite. So that was fun to ask like friends or people that follow me in the community, you know, get feedback. But I have to say, without any big label support, because I released this independently, and without any real advertising yet, and without a real music video yet, I am pleasantly surprised when I go into my dashboard and see how all the streams that I've gotten. It's more than I expected. So I'm really, really happy. But my favorite is when people comment and I can interact with people, even if I don't know them personally. I love hearing feedback from people, because it makes me so happy that somebody listens to something that I co-created with the universe, really. And it's a beautiful interaction. It's like I co-created this beautiful, piece of art, and someone else was touched by it. And then they're giving me back some feedback and love. And it's really a beautiful thing. It's kind of like my whole life, I've always thought how beautiful it was to be an actress or a singer. It's like this beautiful exchange between another soul or a group of souls that were like just having this amazing experience. It's really cool. And both need each other to have that moment, So I've been so happy with the response. It's been a lot of fun.
Now, what has been, collectively the most popular song on the whole entire EP?
So I think Water Codes so far is the favorite, and Earth.
Okay.
But it's interesting because when I go on other streaming platforms, it's a different song on each streaming platform, which one is their favorite. But from my main following, my main community, people on my mailing list, people that follow me on social media, people in my community, most of the feedback I've gotten has been from Earth Codes, and Water Codes have been like their ultimate favorite. Yet my mother and a lot of my best friends like Fire. So it's really I didn't sit down and be like, I'm going to write a pop album. I'm going to write a rock album. Like, the songs just really came to me. Like Fire I wrote real quick. And it was kind of like I wrote it in a dream, it just poured out. So it wasn't like I had any choice in the matter. Like, I was deciding it's going to sound like a certain way. But I would say all the songs are so different, but they all have a common thread of, I love vocals, I love call and response, I love harmonies, and I also integrate some really cool electronic program drums with live drums, and also I sneak in all of my healing instruments, like there's my harp in there, and there's some Native American flute, and you would never know because it sounds like a contemporary song, but I do sneak in some healing instruments because I do want people to pick up on the healing frequencies from those instruments. But it's been so much fun.
Now, do you also like produce your own music as well? Or like you said, it's co-created with, other producers and songwriters? And what I mean by produce, I'm talking about actually making your own beats and all that stuff too.
Yeah, so basically, because I recorded at Cove City, I went back there to do the original music, and Brendan Keenan was my recording engineer, so he became my recording engineer for these songs, and I would say we co-produced these songs. I wrote most of them. I think that it was so magical when I brought him the songs, and then he would get like an idea for a beat, and then I would get an idea, and we were both playing instruments and both like, crafting the songs. But a few of them I came in and I knew exactly how they were going to sound. He would just help me with the arrangement or, different beats. But I definitely think Brendan Keenan, and of course, I'm so grateful for him because he's such a nice guy and so talented. So I would say he produced the album with me. And he also co-wrote Air Codes with me because I brought it to him like 85% done with lyrics and music. And I was like, I can't finish it. And, that song was just stuck. And he kind of like helped me arrange it like a producer would and help me finish. And he gave me, rewrote one line or two. And, I gave him some songwriting credit on that one because I love working with people. And if they give me one line, they get credit, nice. I just think it's fair.
Yeah.
I think, all the love goes around, comes back to you. So I was really grateful that he helped me finish it. But I was also very proud that I wrote, Earth, with my best friend, David Connolly. He had these guitar chords and he sent them to me on the phone. Again, the blessings of technology. And I wrote a melody, vocal melody, and the lyrics. And then I went to the studio and laid out everything, the song the way I wanted it to be laid out, and then brought him in, and he put down a mandolin and his acoustic guitars. And then it was so funny. I was like, I want a guitar solo here. So I left this spot for you. It'll just go wild. And he was trying to work out, he's an amazing player, and he kept trying to record this guitar solo. And then he wasn't happy with it. And he was like, why don't you play flute on it? I'm like, really? It's like a rock song. He's like, no, it'd be cool. So I played a flute solo in like 1 or 2 takes, and he was like, done. It's magical. It's perfect. So it was so funny. Like, that's what happens in the studio if you just let things flow. And, it was a blast. So I would say Earth Codes was a great song to collaborate with one of my best friends, David Connolly. Air Codes, I collaborated with Brendan Keenan, and the other 2 songs were definitely all me. And I gave producing credit to Brendan for all the songs, because it's kind of weird when you're in there, even if like you're very, keen on, what you want. It's like, what are you going to do? You just want to be fair. And I don't know, it's hard to break up who did what. Also, I also took a sound healing class and learned a lot deeper into the science of sound healing, and also learned how to use Ableton Live. So in the future, I knew more, because I was frustrated in the studio that like I couldn't sit at the computer. I knew GarageBand, but I didn't know Ableton or Pro Tools, which is what they use in the studio. So I was like, you know what? I took a 3-month intensive course that blew my mind, and then took another 3-month intensive course on it. And it really helped me, because now I can write songs on my computer using the same program, send it off to them, and work on a song from home, and go back and forth. And at least they have an idea of what I want. So when I come in, it's less expensive and less studio time.
Right.
Or I could even in the future record them on my own. At least I could do the meditations on my own. I'm pretty much thinking I would always want to collaborate with a producer and a sound engineer in the studio, because it's just a perfect place to record with you don't want any outside noise. You want to have all the correct equipment, the microphones and everything. Yeah. So it's been fun. I feel like they're my family over there, and they're begging me to come back. I'm like, well, then we got to do a holiday song. So I was like, I got to upload that to the distributors in October, so we better get cracking on it.
Right.
So I'm like, it's halfway through September, so I got to get over there and I was thinking it would be cool to bring my harp and do some vocals and do a holiday song, but put some cool electronic drums and make it cool. So I might do that if I have time.
Now, you said Ableton Live. That's definitely one of the, I should say, premier digital recording softwares that you can use in music production. Yeah. And I'm like, I've tried to use Ableton Live myself, once before, but it was just so complex. It was like a little difficult for me to follow it. So like with using Ableton Live, what would you say, like, your experience is like with that? It's always interesting to me to hear people talk about Ableton.
So my intention going into the study was really just to learn the basics so I could get my ideas down and not sing them into my phone anymore and get them into a program, and also develop my ideas better. And also I want to perform live with my tracks and not depend on a band occasionally, or go live and be able to like manipulate my own songs on Ableton Live, and also live loop and sing. So those 2 things is what you can do with Ableton Live, not just recording, but you can live loop. So that means I can sing a melody or play something on my harp and hit a button, and it'll repeat for a certain amount of time. And then I could literally keep adding a harmony or playing another instrument on it and build a song live while people are watching, which I think is so cool. So I would give anyone that wants to learn any Ableton Live that it's very overwhelming in the beginning. And I would say if you're going to take a class that you can watch the recording of the class. Like I took a digital class live, so we'd be online with the teacher. The teacher would teach the class. It would be recorded, and then I would watch that class like 2 to 3 times. And then you have to jump in and start using it. Because once you start using it, you're like, oh, what did she say? And you go look at your notes or go, rewind that video. I would just write down the main points of each lesson, like the short codes or what this button does. And eventually you learn the basics, and you will get good enough to use the program if you just keep practicing. So just jump in and don't be scared. Just same thing with podcasting. We were talking about that before. Like, everyone's scared to start a podcast. I'm like, you could literally start a podcast so easily on your phone. Like, you don't even need, a good microphone, just you can constantly upgrade your equipment as you go, but see if you like it first, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, if there's anything in life that you want to try or learn, just jump in and start doing it. Just do it.
Absolutely.
And you can always adjust as you go, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking about your podcast, you know, we mentioned that before the interview and we just brought it up just now. What is your podcast about and where can people listen to it?
Sure. So the podcast is called The Tabitha Polaris Show, which I started when I opened up my holistic center and started treating clients. And I was just so inspired with all the people in my community who are just so wonderful. And so I started interviewing different holistic doctors, different spiritualists, different psychics, different people in the holistic world, whether it's doctors or practitioners or just really cool people doing really cool things, like the topic, how we started the conversation, you know, going back to our ancient wisdom. So I started interviewing different people who I knew and also who I knew of, and have conversations and share the knowledge with everybody and just have a beautiful conversation to share this knowledge with the world. So it was an interview style podcast, and that's how I started it, just with that intention to help more people and get this message out.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it was a lot of fun. It's on all the streaming platforms, just like my album is. So the podcast is The Tabitha Polaris Show. It's on all the podcast sites, you know, and the album is on all the streaming sites, but you could find direct links to both on my website, which is tabithapolaris.com. And I spell my name with a Y. So it's TABYTHA Polaris.com. And you could find everything I'm up to on my website and on all social media sites. I'm the same name as well.
Now, to ask you a question, you know, based off, you know, most of the conversation that we've had today, you know, we've covered a lot of what you do. You know, you're involved in you're involved in many different, you know, feats and stuff like that. And with that being said, like, how do you manage the time between all of them? Like, how do you manage your time when you're dealing with each and every thing that you're involved with?
It's a great question. I would work a lot, but I studied a lot. I studied with Bob Proctor. I studied with Tony Robbins. I studied with a lot of amazing people that gave me the inspiration and the technique and the mindset to run your own business and follow your dreams. And so I like to, I'll be honest, it's a lot of hours of work, but I love what I do. So it feels like play. It feels like fun. Never feels like I'm getting up and dragging my feet to do something. I'm excited about everything I'm doing. But that being said, I did take a break from the podcast for like a year to work on the music. The podcast was a lot of work, and I just took a break for like a year, but there's like so many great episodes that you can catch up with. And I am going to relaunch it again and talk about the stories behind the songs and start interviewing people again. I would say, it's a healthy juggle that you have to balance. You have to balance exercise, you know, eating right, playtime and work. All the areas of your life have to be balanced. And when one takes over too much, it's not healthy. So I was guilty of working a little bit too much, but I also had so much fun during the times that I would play and take off from work. So my life was very full, but I did get to a point where I knew that something had to give to, even though I loved it, to let go. I had to let go of some things to open up for other things. And what I realized is I'll probably be transitioning more into a recording artist, doing guided meditations, soundscapes, and original music moving forward. And I'm really looking forward to performing live again. And I'll probably start the podcast at the beginning of this next year coming up, which is only a couple of months away, and see how things go. But that was a great question because, you know, if you love what you do, you have to kind of make decisions, because sometimes when you do too much, all of them suffer. So sometimes doing one thing really well, you know, and, you know, if I was just the sound healer or just the Reiki person. I could just focus on that and be really successful. And, but I'm not like that. I love all things. And it's my challenge in life is to streamline and do less, but I love doing so many things, you know? But I realized I do need to choose what brings me the most joy and what's more passionate in my heart and do that more. And so instead of not doing the podcast anymore, I decided just to take a little time off. And that's how, you know, I think that it's okay that everybody in business goes through phases. It could change. You could start and stop things. You could, you know, just go with the flow and make sure you just adjust along the way.
Absolutely. And, you know, I want to say, you know, definitely rest in peace to Bob Proctor. You know, he's very, you know, inspirational to a lot of different people. And I just recently got introduced to Bob Proctor, you know, earlier in the beginning of this year. And then also the fact that you mentioned Tony Robbins. Like, Tony Robbins is definitely an amazing dude. I had a chance earlier in this year as well to attend his 5-day, seminar that he had online. It was a virtual seminar and I got a chance to attend it and even had the opportunity to purchase his book, Money Master the Game. And he's definitely one of the brilliant minds when it comes to like not only just, you know, business and inspiring people to get out there to, you know, create and form their own businesses, but also in life as well. Cause I hear that he's helped so many like professional athletes and a whole lot of other people along the line to be better versions of themselves. And I think that that's another thing that plays a part also in life that people are starting to reconnect to as well. Not only just the naturalness of, you know, the elements of the earth and, you know, the different elements such as, you know, earth, wind, fire and all that stuff, but also, you know, when it comes to like their mentality and stuff, a lot of people are starting to be more conscious and aware of the way they're thinking about things. And that's one of the things that, you know, people like Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor like to preach a lot is, you know, the mindset plays a major key into anything you do. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned both of them. They're amazing. But I have to tell you, the Bob Proctor story is how this whole music thing got refired up. This is the best story ever. I can't believe that you're mentioning these two. So when I took my time off and was working more in the healing arts, I was invited by one of my business mentors to go to Canada to Bob Proctor's house and study for a whole week at this big week-long event training program called The Matrix. So I went. I picked everything, went to The Matrix, and I thought I was learning. I literally thought I was going to learn how to expand my business when they would break you down and get to the inside of your heart and then build you back up. And what happened was I was like, oh, I'm not here to build my business. I'm here to sing again. I'm going to be a singer again. I literally, you know, we had to get up on individually at the end of this whole week and declare our statement. And when I declared my statement, they made me go up on stage and sing in front of all the entire crowd. So I was cracking up. I had that amazing experience and I went home and I'm really, really grateful for that experience. Bob brought us to his house and I don't know, he's just an amazing person. All the techniques of mindset and following your joy and that your life should feel like a game is really deep. And it takes a lot of truth to, you know, some people just don't mind, you know, working or being, you know, just, they don't have like a definite goal or an urging like I did, like you were born to do this, burning desire. And that's okay if you don't. Maybe you're here to support your family. Maybe you're here to just like hold down the fort in this area of this job. Whatever it is, it's just so important. But I've always had this burning desire. And when I realized that at Bob Proctor's event, I went home and I was like, that's it. Music is it. I declare that I will write my own music and I will do my own album. And over the next year or two, it just so happened that the universe conspired with me like Bob said it would. And everything shut down and I had all the time in the world to work on this project. So it was just really interesting how it all played out. And Bob Proctor, was an amazing person, but thank goodness his teachings are being carried on by his business partner and his company. So you can still learn all those amazing techniques. And Tony Robbins, did you walk on fire? Did you ever, do that? I missed that whole thing, but I know you said you took the online class, but I always wanted to do that fire walk that he did. Doesn't that look cool?
Now the fire walk, I haven't heard about that one, but the fire walk, no, I haven't had a chance to do that one, but the Tony Robbins thing, I forgot exactly what the theme of it was, but it was basically one of those things that was just conditioning people. Well, I shouldn't say condition, but just, teaching people how to condition their minds to, receive the things that they're looking for. Like if you have this burning desire to be X, Y, and Z in life, then it first starts with your mindset, and it was a 5-day course, and it was pretty good. It was so many interesting things in it. He taught you like various different, ways to exercise, to loosen yourself up, to get the positive, blood flow going through your body and everything. And then just also various things to get yourself, into the mindset of doing, like when you feel like you're not motivated or uninspired or you don't have any ambition, things like that. And, I took a lot away from that, seminar that he had. And, with that also, made me, feel even more encouraged to go out and get, his book, Money Master the Game, because, just hearing his story and just seeing so many, well-known people like the Ed Milet's and people like, Seth Curry that, was, involved with Tony Robbins and stuff like that, that helped him, become a better person in life and stuff like that. It made me more interested in him. So, that's, my experience as far as Tony Robbins is concerned. But there are definitely two of the most brilliant minds that we have in this current time when it comes to that.
Absolutely. Do you feel like what you learned, did you apply it? Do you feel like it helped you to grow in your business and life?
I will say yes, but I will say no to myself, because a lot of the things that I was, that I have learned from, the teachings of not only Bob Proctor, but also, Tony Robbins, a lot of those things, I've learned it, I soaked it in, I wrote it down. But my only thing is I allowed too much of what was going on in my own personal life to kind of draw me away from it. You know what I mean? So like sometimes I have found myself being uninspired or not getting the immediate results that I expect. Sometimes it kind of made me fall back from it a little bit, but that's my own thing. And that was part of what their, I felt as though their teachings was trying to show me. And then having this conversation with you here today, for some reason, it made me feel like even more inspired and even more fired up to go and continue to pursue the things that I want to do. So I definitely do appreciate this.
Oh, it's been so much fun talking to you. I hope we talk again and
Absolutely.
That we keep in touch. And, let me know what you're doing. I'll help you promote it. I'll share it on social media. If you need any help with anything, please let me know. And I'm really grateful for this time together. And it was so much fun talking to you.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate it. And I definitely enjoyed this conversation. It's definitely one of the best conversations I've had so far today. And with that being said, I just have, one parting question that I want to ask you before we get ready to wrap up the interview. And it's so sad that, we have a time limit here today, but, we always have other platforms and other times where we're going to be able to connect and, even build even more. But the one question I want to ask you is, when it's all said and done for you as as far as when it comes to your music career and everything that you're looking to accomplish, what do you want to be able to say you was able to do by the time it's all said and done?
Well, my first goal was to create and release, which I accomplished already. But now my second goal is to do this full time. I just want to write music, record it, do music videos, and just have so much fun creating all those beautiful things, and possibly do some live streaming and concerts on my own, and then have a small band to go out and perform with as well. I mean, I'm right near New York City and Brooklyn. It's a very beautiful community, and also Long Island, out in the Hamptons during the summer. I mean, there's lots of opportunities. What I would say is that if I could do more of the singing full time and have a team of people help me, because it was a lot of work doing the work of the artist, the recording label, the promoter. Like, I mean, it was overwhelming that I did the work of the publisher, the record label, like all the behind the scenes work was really a lot. I did a lot of research. I had to fill out forms. I had to do a lot of things that were just taking away from my creation time. And I think that a lot of the things were not so fun. So also, it's a very complicated industry behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is easy. So I would say I would like to call in some team of people, a small team of people to help me get the behind the scenes things done so I could create more. That would be really great. I love doing photo shoots. I love creating art. Like, I have this whole story that I'm working on, like a graphic novel and songs to go with it. And I really need the time to finish creating it. And if I could call in just maybe, a small team of people to help me behind the scenes, that would be great. But ultimately, my main goal, my intention is to just do what I love and also help people at the same time. So I really hope my music inspires and lifts people up or touches people in a certain way, or at least entertains them. So,
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If people don't listen to this conversation and don't feel inspired after hearing this, then I don't know what to tell them, because I feel inspired walking away from this conversation. And I truly do mean that. Like, I really do feel invigorated and feel even more, inspired to continue to pursue the path that I feel as though that is right for me. A lot of people don't realize, a lot goes into, it as a podcast host, but, a lot of people don't understand just how much really goes into, doing radio and, doing the day-to-day activities that come along with it. So it does get, a little bit uninspiring at sometimes, but when I hear, stories like yourself and, having conversations with people like yourself, I always tend to look back and I just feel like, what, maybe the way, maybe the negative that I was thinking at one point, maybe, thinking back to it, maybe all of this is worth it. All of the, the restless nights and all of the times where you're worried about whether or not it's going to really be a success or not. So I really want to say thank you. And I truly do mean that.
You're welcome. And thank you. I do have to say there's got to be two paths to reach your goal. One of them does look like working long hours and doing all the things yourself and getting everything done the right way. But also maybe there's another path that is a little bit more fun, that, maybe if you put your intention out and you kind of put something out there and things just start to happen with ease and grace. That's the best way.
Yeah.
that's kind of what I hope. It's, I think if we get our mind into the mindset of that, it could be a little bit easier than we think, or, but just know that, go for it.
Absolutely.
And, do you know the guys from the Grindhouse Radio?
I heard the name before,
or
but
do you know of the show?
I've heard
That's
it
why
before.
I started
yeah.
my pad. Yeah. So, I'm kind of friends with Bram and the whole crew. And that's how I got inspired to start a podcast. And yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, it took a whole day out of my week to book the guests, to edit the show, record the show, promote it. It's a lot of work, but I did it because I loved it. But, when I looked at everything I was doing, there was a lot of things I was doing, and I knew some things had to be cut out because what everyone needs to do is listening right now, close your eyes, and then what would it feel like tomorrow if you woke up? What would be your perfect day? Like, what would be your ultimate dream life? What do you want to do tomorrow for your job, for your life? Like, what happens? For me, I wake up, a team of people do my makeup and hair. I go record a music video. I get interviewed on a radio show like this, which I love to do. And then maybe I'm playing a gig that night, or maybe I'm going into the recording studio to record, but it's all fun creation stuff like that. I love creating things like that to tell stories. And I don't know, it's just when you start dreaming things in your head, like that would be the best day for me, just to have a few assistants to help me get things ready and get things going. A little bit of help from some people, because it's hard to, your makeup kind of melts off your face when you're lugging all your instruments to the photo shoot,
Right.
So, it would be nice to have some people to help. But what is, like, if everyone just thinks about, like, what would be your perfect day job? What would be your perfect, vacation home? What would be the perfect location where you want to live? Like, what does your life look like by design? And if tomorrow was like the perfect day, and then you could just like have that in your head and work towards it. Mm-hmm. And if you could do all the dream boards and dream journals you want, but if you don't feel like you deserve it in your body and in your soul, it's not going to happen. So make sure you do that self-work on yourself, because you do deserve to live the best life that you could possibly live. Absolutely. And you have to believe in yourself and not put yourself down. So, I know what it's like when you have a dream or when you're working and, you get busy. Just always try to stay positive. And when I have a to-do list of 20 things and I only get 10 done, I used to beat myself up that I only got 10 done. And now I have renamed my to-do list the Magic List, which was a suggestion from my friends. It was brilliant. And if I get 10 things done out of 20, then I pat myself on the back. And that is how I choose to live now. And it's much better that way.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, Tabitha, I definitely want to say thank you. And it's almost like it almost feels like a shame that, we've come to an end with this, this particular interview. Cause like I said, it was a very great conversation. I really much did enjoy, having this conversation with you here today. And I hope to have you back on here again real soon. And with that being said,
Anytime.
No problem. And with that being said, for anybody that's listening right now that would like to reach out to you, that would like to hear more of your music and would like to, maybe follow you on social media or even book you for their show, how can they make that possible?
Sure. TabithaPolaris.com is my website. And if you want to reach out to me on the website form, there's a contact form on there. And if you're just looking to interact with me, social media in the comments section. On my website, you could get all the direct links to my social media sites, and you could send me an email on the contact form. You could listen to my music on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the places. And, you could get on my mailing list if you want. Once a month, I send out a little love note with, usually a free meditation and a song. If I release anything, you get to hear it first. And if I'm doing any events, then you get to, hear what's going on. But everything you need to know about me is on my website, and you can check it out there, TabithaPolaris.com. And I look forward to connecting with all of you.
Absolutely. And with that said, we do appreciate you once again. And for everybody else out there that's tuned in and listening right now, keep it locked right here to the show, because coming up next, we have the platform premiere of Water Codes from off of Tabitha's EP called Elemental Codes, that is out right now. Wherever you like to get your music from, go and get that and go show that support. But keep it locked right here. It's Emilio Wackball, and I'll be back with much more right after this.